yeah, if not, that's the way life goes, right?
These two are a 4-6 pair. And also that
This is quite beautiful. This is quite beautiful. It all turns on the stag head because this is an odd digit. Now let's come back to this. This domino and this domino are summing to an odd digit, so they each contain an even number and an odd number. And that means that there must be 5 odd numbers altogether in those 7 cells. That's not 7, it's 8, and therefore that's got the same parity, and that's 2. And that is quite beautiful.
these two are a 4-6 pair. And also that these two are a 4-6 pair by exactly the same reasoning. And now that tells us that all of these cells are a 1 or a 9. But in this row, actually, things are now continue to be forced.
That is how to solve Scott Strosahl's wonderful 2021 Miracle Sudoku. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. The logic at the start is so tight but clever, and yeah, loved it. Loved every moment of it.
27 cage must have a 9 in it. But now I've taken 9 out of here. If I put a 9 here, these would sum to 15. And these would sum to 91. There's a 9 in here and there's a 9 in here. Which means I've got 2 9s already in these rows. Which means that is a 7.
Oh, I see. They can't be a 3 because they'd be touching a 3. So they must be a 2 and a 1. If they're a 2 and a 1, this cell has to be the 1. And there we go. I really enjoyed that. That's such a clever puzzle. And there's so little space. You had to do the full counter. Really nice puzzle. His whole series has been really good.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome Scott Strosahl to the stream as well. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Glad to be here.
As Novario says, if you like the stream, please do indeed like the stream on the technical side, because it does help.
If you like it, then like it.
If you like it, then like it. It just makes sense. Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, you should probably like it.
Yeah. Even if you're just like sort of neutral on it, like it anyway. It doesn't actually mean like. It's like the heart on Instagram. It doesn't mean you love it. It just means you like it. Yeah. Like number 1, like number 2, like number 3. Thanks, Tristan. All right. Let's just get right into it with some warm-up questions. I usually have a little thank you to my patrons at this part because they've suggested some aside from puzzle questions to generally ask. So let's start with what do you do for work?
What do I do for work? So that's an interesting question. I kind of do several things. So I work part-time at a church. I am the worship leader and youth director at a church currently. I might not be the youth director for too much longer. We're trying to find somebody else, but I do that part-time. And then obviously YouTube part-time, sort of. I kind of have 2 part-time, full-time jobs.
Two part-time jobs that people would normally do full-time, but
kind of, yeah. Well, sort of, yeah. Depending on the week. Like right now, we're getting ready for Christmas, and so officially I'm the worship leader and youth director at our church, but I also like write the Christmas program. I run the website. I do all the tech stuff. So a lot of extra things sort of behind the scenes that. So,
makes sense.
Yes. So, but that's the short answer, I guess. Then I do some other random things here and there. I occasionally do some photography, some videography. I just did fall family pictures for a family, here in town, and some things like that here and there. So, yeah,
cool.
Done some short films. I don't know if that really counts as a job because I don't really make any money off of them, but theoretically, they could make some money.
For like film festivals or something like that.
Yeah,
or just for fun. I guess
yes,
yeah.
Basically just for
Both.
fun. We've put them in some film festivals, but just they've been like no budget kind of or minimal budget kind of films. So yeah. I hesitate to mention this, but I have written a couple of books as well, which theoretically I make money off of, but not so much anymore. But it was a long time ago, and it was a long time ago. They'd probably be better if I wrote them now. So
Yeah,
that's why I say I hesitate to mention, because
I just
no, I
noticed
think
on
they're still on it,
on your website it mentioned writer, and I was wondering if that was like more
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
filmmaking side or if it was like an actual writer. But I guess we have confirmation.
Both. But I've got a couple of books that are theoretically in progress, but they've been in progress for a while. So if I get the time, I'll finish them. But yeah, I have published 3 books, I guess. Two. One is a kid's book,
Yeah.
and two are adult books, but not like adult books, if you know what I mean.
Not adult books.
Right. They're just not for kids necessarily.
Yeah.
Theoretically in progress. Somebody said that's a nice phrase. Yeah, that is
Do you mind
theoretically
me
in
asking
progress.
what your adult books or the ones in progress are about?
Sure.
Out of
So
curiosity.
the 2 that are out there, they're on Amazon if you want to waste your money and go read them. But I think they're only like $1 if you get the ebook version or something. So, but one is a mystery. It's about a bank robbery. They're both fiction. The other one is sort of a adventure espionage kind of thing. Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah. And then the one that's
talents.
for kids is actually, so the one that's for kids was theoretically going to be part of a series, but I needed to sell enough of them to pay for the illustrations for the upcoming books. And again, theoretically still in progress, but I didn't promote it very well, basically, is the thing. But it was actually based on a podcast that I used to do. So another thing that I used to do. So I had a podcast for a long time that this was not based off of. That was a Sherlock Holmes mystery radio drama kind of thing that I did. Kind of like radio before TV, how they used to do TV on the radio kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we'd kind of we'd do seasons, and in the off season, we'd do a few episodes of a different thing. And I did a series for a little while called The Arc of Time, which was about a couple. Well, it was not about kids. The book is kind of based off of that, but as kids. But in the podcast, it was a couple of adults, and basically they were traveling back in time and to visit biblical events in the past, and then they were like kind of part of the thing. Like they went to, they showed up in a biblical town, and there was a bunch of people gathered around, and someone's coming through, and everybody's excited to see him, and there's this short guy that can't see, and he's trying to climb up in a tree, and so they go boost him up and help him into the tree, and that was Zacchaeus, if you know the story of Zacchaeus climbing up in the tree to see Jesus. So they ended up kind of being part of the different stories was the idea. So the book series is kind of the same idea, but kids. So, yeah.
Wait a second. What is the radio series called?
So it wasn't actually on the radio; it was a podcast. But I used to do. It was called the Sherlock Holmes one, or the other one,
the Arc one, because it's
Arc. It was called the Arc of Time.
Called the Arc of Time, right? You said that.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
It's really reminding me of something, because I'm not religious anymore, but my family is religious.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I usually don't go into this, but in my childhood, we listened to a radio drama. I can't remember what it's called. It was like there's definitely someone named Whitaker in it. I can't remember. It had similar ideas about like traveling back to
wouldn't
visit.
Surprise me. I mean,
Yeah,
it seems like kind of an obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not obvious, but like surely somebody else has thought to do that before. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might have been like a one-off, not the idea behind the whole thing. I think it was more like a drama about like a church town sort of deal.
Sure.
And then weird things happened, and espionage and all that kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was called, by the way, the Arc of Time, the ARK.
Right.
Time, like the Ark from the Bible, but the Arc of Time because ARC,
Very funny.
That was the idea of a pun.
Anyways,
but yeah, our Sherlock Holmes one was called the Watson Files, and we did, I don't know, quite a few seasons of that. We did like almost 100 episodes of that thing. It was just typical Sherlock Holmes, but it was the grandsons of Holmes and Watson, and so then it was like modern times was the idea. But
Cool.
Yeah, it's still out there. You can find it if you search for it. It's on YouTube. I don't know if you can still get it on podcast players and things, but it's still on YouTube.
So other than
Yeah.
your, what is that now, 5 or maybe 15 jobs, do you have any hobbies?
I don't know how many of them actually count as jobs. Most of them are
Yeah.
more like hobbies, but yeah.
Do you have any other
Theoretically,
hobby?
I make money off of some of them. So.
Yeah. Do you have any other hobbies or interests outside of like puzzling or the things that we already know about? Obviously?
I mean, I would say I'm interested in everything. It's kind of the truth. I kind of am, which I guess is why I started a second YouTube channel called Here's Something Interesting, because I'm interested in lots of things. But I like sports. I like doing a lot of sports. I did a lot of sports back in school, and I still play volleyball once in a while. I used to play basketball, just kind of local, pickup games and stuff. But I sprained my ankle too many times. And I got tired of that, so I don't play basketball so much anymore, other than with my kids. And I play water polo some, just again local kind of rec stuff. So I do lots of sports. I like to obviously do puzzles and play. I like to play games and stuff. My wife and I really like doing escape rooms, which is kind of related to puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
But like when we go on vacation, we do escape rooms in other cities and stuff, and so that's fun.
Cool.
Somebody said go Cyclones, so I gotta go Cyclones. Woo. Adventures in Odyssey. Somebody said, Adventures in Odyssey. That's what it is.
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't ever listen to that, but I'm aware that it's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That
Interesting.
was you were blasting my mind with the past of like,
Yeah.
did Scott write Adventures in Odyssey? Like, no.
No, I did
No.
not. No, I haven't actually listened, but I'm guessing it's probably better than what we did. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it holds up. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't
don't know how well my
super
stuff
fan
holds
or
up either.
anything.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite like cuisine or food that you?
Ooh, I do like to cook. As far as hobbies go, I do the
Add that to
cooking at our
list.
house. Yeah. So my wife's a doctor, and when she was in her residency, she was working crazy long hours, and we had two young kids at home. In fact, we have 3 boys. The second and third were born during her residency. And so I just started cooking because she'd get home late and everybody else needed to eat. And so that's kind of how I started cooking. And then I enjoyed it. I keep doing it. So I do like to cook. Favorite cuisine. Anything but seafood, pretty much. I don't like seafood for some reason. Everybody always tells me, oh, well, if you tried this kind of fish, you would probably like it. And it's never true.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of Mexican food, Italian food. I like a lot of things. Yeah,
That's fair. Food is good.
I mean, probably the things that typical Americans would like. Like you get into like some of the curries and things, and But I'm from the Midwest in the U.S. Like we just don't eat that stuff. It's just not what we're used to. That's how it is. And that might be why I don't like seafood as much too, because it's not like
sure.
there's any sea around. Like people eat fish here, obviously. There's lots of fishing that happens here and stuff, but
it's actually funny because I'm from like the east coast of Canada, where we used to eat a lot of seafood, but like people who come from a sea area and go to somewhere where I am now, which is landlocked, like they don't eat any seafood, because even if they like seafood, because seafood here is just terrible.
It's just not the
compared
same.
to seafood.
Yeah.
It's just
because they're snobs
fresh.
about seafood. They're seafood snobs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not
Seafood
that that's
snobs.
a bad thing. I mean, that's fair. I am, being from the Midwest and specifically from Iowa, I am a corn snob. If I go somewhere else and they serve me corn, it's just always a disappointment. So it's just different people from different places. I don't have any problem with people that like seafood. I just prefer not to eat it.
Yeah. I didn't expect you to be like a seafood extremist.
Tristan agrees. Tristan knows about corn. You can't. Even other places in the Midwest, it's just not. So I did in high school. We did a mission trip to Los Angeles. We were in South Central Los Angeles, which was amazing. And this church that we were working with there, the ladies made us a meal, and they were so excited. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna serve. We got corn because you guys are from the Midwest." And it was like, "This has no flavor," but the lady made us homemade lemonade from the lemons she picked from her tree in her backyard, which we do not have lemons in Iowa. That's not like. And so that was really good. So it's just, different places, different things. So
Kodak asks, did you grow up as a kid in the cornfield secretly with your buddies to eat juicy corn in the corn jungle?
No, because you don't really want to eat it raw. It's not a thing. Yeah. It's like you go pick green beans and stuff. You just eat them right off the vine. They're great. Yeah. Corn, you want to cook it first. Yeah. Plus, actually, so literally across the street from my house right here is a cornfield. I know, stereotypical Iowa, right? I live out in the country, but actually across the street, I live across the street from a limestone mine, but it's all underground. But they can't build anything on top because of the mine underneath and security, safety, and all that jazz. So, so it's just fields on top. So, but a lot of the corn in the fields around here, you wouldn't want to eat anyways because it's feed corn. It's not sweet corn. Not the kind of corn you would eat. It's feed corn, or it's used for, making ethanol and various other products out of corn.
Yeah.
So,
how do you balance like puzzling or YouTube with the rest of your life?
Balance? What's that supposed to be? Yeah, it's a challenge. I guess. Kind of prioritizing things, right? So some days I'll do a bunch of puzzles. Some days I'll do 3 or 4, and they might be quicker ones. So, and I sort of try to plan ahead. So like today we're doing this, obviously.
Right.
I also had, as you know, the rest of everybody else doesn't know, but I had a table being delivered today. We had a new dining room table that we ordered like a year ago, almost, not quite, but a long time ago. And it happened to be delivered today. So I had that going on and a couple other things today. So I knew it was going to be busy. So I actually kind of recorded some of my videos for today, yesterday, in anticipation. And a lot of times I'll do that for the weekend. I can sort of record videos ahead of time because I know we've got, like tomorrow, we've got a basketball tournament for my youngest. Actually, we have 2 basketball tournaments. My youngest and my middle son have tournaments in different places, but I'm coaching my youngest son, so I'm going to be at that tournament. So that's one thing, is kind of try to plan ahead. But yeah, it can be kind of tough. Not sleeping helps.
Yeah. I mean,
I sleep really well. I just don't necessarily, some people need like 8 hours, and I'm 6.5 most of the time. 7 is a lot for me. So, I tend to work on things at night when the rest of the family's asleep.
That's fair. Yeah. In a few of
it can be tough.
In a few of your videos, you've said like, it's almost midnight, so I need to get this puzzle done before it ticks over.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and you can usually tell if I've recorded at night or not because the lighting will be different. Because the way my desk is positioned here, I'm kind of in the corner of the room, and I have big windows on to my left and my right. So like if I open this, you'll see bright light coming in, because that's the south-facing window, so you get nice harsh light there, which we don't really want. But at night, I don't have the light from the windows, so the lighting is quite a bit different then. So.
Yeah, I usually have like an accent light in the back, the lamp on if it's more morning or evening.
Yeah,
and then
and I have a light on up there. You can see it right there.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I was gonna say it must be difficult to plan ahead for Wordle specifically because you couldn't record something like 5 days in advance because they're daily puzzles.
You can actually.
If people will know,
You actually
but I guess
can record those ahead of time.
Oh, if you skip,
you can.
If you change the time zone.
Yeah, you can do it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Now there is a bit of a risk there though, because sometimes the puzzles get changed. So if you record too far ahead, and then they update. That happened the very first time I did a polygonal. It was somebody had sent me, I think the creator of the puzzle had sent me an email saying, hey, you should do this, and I kind of, it'd been a week or two, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that puzzle, and so I did it, and I recorded it like a day or two ahead of time because I was recording ahead for whatever reason. I was like, oh, I'll try this and I'll do the one for a couple days from now. And I recorded it. And then it turned out they did like a crossover thing with some other puzzle or something, but they changed it. They changed the puzzle for that day. And so what they did is they just bumped the future, bumped everything back a day.
Right.
So
right.
it worked out. Luckily, I figured it out before I posted the video, and then I was able to just post it the next day, and it worked out fine. But that's one risk with recording ahead. So I don't typically record things too far ahead much. A lot of times I record them on the day, but when I'm going to be busy or I know I'm going to be out of town or something, then I'll record ahead. So,
right.
And I know Ranks has done that before too, because we had our week of challenges that we both did not too long ago, and that was partly because he was going to be out of town and pre-recording stuff for the whole week. So,
right.
Yep.
So
but some of the puzzles won't let you record ahead. So
yeah, he knew what the outcome was before you did.
Yeah, he did. He had recorded all the whole week, and he had them all ready to go, and then I was doing them each day.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay. Let's go and move on from the more personal side of things. The corn segment is now complete.
Oh, now I have to bring up corn as much as possible since I'm really not like a corn fanatic at all. I like corn, but it just always comes up because I live in Iowa.
Right. Always comes up, and it's right by your house, of course. So
it is. Yeah. Sometimes they plant soybeans. There's a whole thing there, but you have to alternate.
Interesting. I don't know anything about farming, so
I don't know very much about it either, but I know enough because I live in Iowa to know basically the different types of crops need different minerals from the soil and leave different minerals in the soil.
Right.
And so by rotating, they kind of feed each other. Otherwise, you end up stripping all the nutrients out of the soil if you just plant the same crop all the time. So they'll rotate. Yep. Anyways, moving on from farming.
Right.
I don't really know that much about farming either. I've never been a farmer.
You're ruining the next video of here's something interesting. They plant different crops and
hey, I can still do that. I might. That's a good idea. That's a good idea actually, because I know plenty of people that I could talk to that do know what they're talking about. In fact, right here in town is Iowa State University, and they have a big agriculture college. So that's actually not a bad idea. That would be interesting.
We'll leave the rest of that conversation for for another
for that video. Yeah.
And we'll move to a normal first question that I ask. Primarily puzzle setters, like what is the first puzzle that you ever set, and how did that go?
Ooh, okay. So interesting. First puzzle I ever set, as far as I can remember, the first puzzle I remember setting was in middle school. So a long time ago. This was like, so I would have had, we didn't have a computer yet. I know, I'm old. But we had what we called a word processor. It was like a laptop computer. But all it could do was like documents, like type words, like not even Word like you think of Word now. It was like Notepad, basically. Right. You booted up an MS-DOS, and that was all you could do was type things. And I made a crossword puzzle for my grandma for Christmas. On that thing, I did like, underscores and the vertical bars and drew out the grid and everything. So that's the first time I can remember actually creating a puzzle. I may have drawn like a maze or something before that, if you want to count that. But yeah,
maze is barely
that's the first I can remember. But if you want to talk more recent Sudoku and stuff, the first Sudoku I ever designed was a baseball themed Sudoku. So I had it was a sandwich Sudoku. It was a sandwich Sudoku. And it had like the diamond, the base paths, and it had the numbers in there for the positions, like the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, all that stuff. So yeah, that was the first one that I made. So, but I've done lots of things in between, lots of puzzles. I've done like, things for like trivia nights and scavenger hunt type puzzle things and various, for the youth group or for different things. Yeah. So
cool.
First base is 3 because the pitcher is 1 and the catcher is 2. Somebody's asking. What's more weird than first base being 3, I think, is more unusual for people is you go first, second, or 1, 2 is pitcher, catcher, and then 3, 4 is first and second. But then you jump over to third base for 5, and then shortstop is 6. You kind of skip shortstop and come back because the shortstop typically plays farther back. Is the reason for that. But there you go.
I'm from Canada, so we all just think baseball is really boring. So,
Yep.
I don't know much about it.
You know, I think in my experience, now maybe I don't know. I like sports in general. I like pretty much every sport. But I think in general, if you are not familiar with a sport, it seems boring. Like, you know, my wife, maybe less so now than she used to, but she kind of thinks football is boring because she doesn't care about it, isn't really that interested in it. You know, most people think baseball is boring if they don't know anything about it. You know, I know a lot of people around here think soccer is really boring because we just don't, you know, it's not as big of a thing. And then once you learn about a sport, my wife used to think baseball was really boring. And then she started watching it with me and learned more about it. And now she likes baseball. So I think part of it is just you don't really know what's going on, so it seems boring. So yeah,
right.
I think that's true of almost every sport.
Or
curling seems like it would be really boring, but I think if you learn about it, it's probably pretty interesting. You know. So
I'm not really an ice hockey fan, Andrew Sakis, but it's more exciting than than baseball for me personally.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is some sports I think are more interesting to the random person who doesn't know what's going on. Like a random person who goes and watches hockey might not have a clue what's happening. They don't understand icing. Even people that know hockey don't understand icing.
No.
And but you know, they're moving around, they're skating, they're fighting, there's all this stuff happening, and so it's kind of exciting. But
anything with punching and blades that aren't used as knives is exciting, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they were used as knives, it could be exciting too, just in a different way, I guess.
In a different way.
Competitive tag. Turganis says competitive tag. That is crazy. If you haven't seen competitive tag, go look at it. I don't know how people don't break their ankles and clothesline themselves jumping and diving over the thing. It's insane. Yeah. But again, competitive tag, you watch it for a little while, it starts to get kind of boring after a while because it's a lot of the same.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess most things get
speed walking is awesome. Somebody said speed walking. That one's fun. Speed walking, it's so fun to watch in the Olympics. Those people are amazing.
True athletes.
Yeah.
Anyways,
some of those people are walking faster than most of us can run.
True.
Insane.
How did we get away from, how on earth did we get on this topic?
I don't know. I have no idea. Because you were asking about the puzzles that I set, and I set a puzzle related to baseball.
Baseball diamond, right? And then
see, this is how my brain works. I jump from one thing to the next, and pretty soon we're off the path, and no one knows how we even got there. Yep, that's what's happening in my brain all the time. So puzzles, yes, you were asking about the first puzzle I set. So yeah, crossword puzzle for my grandma in middle school.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in that. I
wish I still had it.
Is your grandma like a big crossword solver?
I think she's not around anymore, but I think she was. I know she must have been. I know she liked puzzles and things. She used to watch Wheel of Fortune and all that kind of stuff. She was a lawyer, so well educated, and because for her time, especially for a woman, they often didn't go to college at all, and she was a lawyer, so. She must have liked crossword puzzles. I don't know. I made her one. Maybe I liked crossword puzzles. I don't know. And I'm sure it wasn't any good. But I probably had words misspelled and stuff too, which makes a crossword puzzle really hard. But
yeah,
I just remember making that. I remember going through and figuring out how to do the underscores and trying to make it all actually be a crossword puzzle grid. So,
I was going to ask, did she sort of set the tone for you to be interested in puzzles, or how did you first get interested in like crosswords or Sudokus, or was it just always there sort of thing?
I think it was just kind of a thing that I always enjoyed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we played lots of games when I was younger, board games and card games. I've always loved card games, and they're sort of related to that kind of thing, but I don't know. And my grandma was into puzzles. I think.
Probably.
Yeah, she didn't live really near us for a lot of my time growing up, so it wasn't like I spent lots of time with her or anything like
Right.
For a while they lived in another state, and yeah, so I don't know. I just as far as I can remember, I've always enjoyed puzzles. I've always enjoyed solving things, solving problems, not even necessarily puzzles, but like solving problems in general. That's
Right.
I went to school for engineering partly because I like solving problems, and it seemed like that's what you do is you become an engineer.
um, was that first baseball diamond puzzle? Was that also before you got into the whole Sudoku community kind of thing, or was it during that time?
Well,
More
I mean, it
recently?
was before. Yes and no, I guess, because it was after I started watching Cracking the Cryptic. That's kind of I'd done Sudoku, when I
Yeah.
was younger, but just standard Sudokus in the newspaper kind of deal. And they, it was interesting, but those get old after a while, right? And I didn't know anything about all these other kind of Sudokus, and then I saw some on YouTube and thought it was interesting. And my again, the way my brain works, I see things and I want to do them, right? I go to a concert and I'm like, oh, that was great. I should write a song. It's my instinct. I see a great movie and I'm like, I need to make a short film. So I
Read a
see
book.
these great puzzles. I got to make a puzzle, right? And so I opened up Google spreadsheet and started making a Sudoku in there. That's how I designed the first few that I did. But this was before the Discord server.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as the puzzle community, like I was watching some of their YouTube videos, so I was kind of part of the community, but it wasn't like on Discord where there was a place to post them. I was essentially making it, hoping to send it to Mark and Simon. That was about. I didn't know what else to do with it other than sending it to them. I could post it on Twitter or something, but there was no place to put it. I didn't know about Logic Masters Germany site. There was no Discord server. There was no I think there was maybe like a Facebook Sudoku group that I was kind of aware of, but so I'd kind of joined the community, kind of not, I guess, is the answer to that. So
when did you first set that puzzle, or when did you first start watching CTC?
With 2019 for sure. Probably late summer, early fall, I probably started watching them. And then in the fall sometime, I set that puzzle. And then I set another one late in 2019 that I sent to them. That was the first one they did a video of. And that one, no, that would have been the beginning of, so it was either like late December, early January, right in there.
Yeah.
The change over to 2020. Because I specifically wrote it or made it themed around the number 1 for January 11th. Yep. Yeah, there you go. That one.
This one. So it's probably on January 11th.
And yeah, I sent it. I think so this is back in the day. It was like, what, 2.5 years ago or something. But I just tweeted them like an image of the puzzle and said, hey, I made this. You might like it. And they did it. It was like the day before and they did it the next day. It was kind of, that was how you did it back then. So, yeah, there you go. That was the first one that I sent to them. So I had made the baseball one earlier, but I think I sent them this one first because of the connection with January 11th. And not that there's anything special about January 11th other than it's 111, right?
Right.
Depending on either way, you can do it 111, 111 or 11-1. It works either way. Yeah. But I just felt that little extra kind of gimmick might help me get onto the channel essentially. So and it worked.
Yeah, and because it was date based, then they sort of had to do it the next day.
Right.
Instant
Yeah.
feedback.
Yep. And then the second puzzle I sent them was actually one. So it's people on this first one that I did said something about, you've got a little over a month to do 1-on-2s for February 22nd. Well, that happened to be February 20th would be. Was it February? No, February 2nd. February 2nd, since it was 2020, was 02022020.
Right.
It was a palindrome. So I did a 2 based puzzle that was palindrome as well. So that way, again, it was tied to the date, and so a month later.
Cool.
Yeah. So
and it was palindrome themed,
those
I'm
are the first
guessing.
couple. It was, yeah. It's actually on the let's see, if it would be over that way to your on the screen. It's right.
Yeah,
The viewer's
the two,
right
the
from
big
you.
2, right?
The big with the big 2 there. Yep,
Yeah,
that's the one.
That would make sense.
Yep. It's always tricky when you're trying to point at things because it's the opposite direction when you're looking at yourself on the screen.
Yeah,
So
I
you have to
always
figure out which way to go.
I actually always flip my I actually just did it because
Oh, you flip your video?
I flip my video because I don't like well, one, I don't like when I can't point to like the right direction. It actually really annoys me. I'm a grad student, so I TA and I teach students, and when there's something like on the projector behind me and I'm like looking at a screen in front of me, and then I'm trying to point like to the left, but it's the opposite direction, and I'm like, I just get annoyed with that. So I'd rather it be the same direction that I'm in physical space.
Now,
and then also
the problem with that is then words are backwards. So like my sweatshirt, if I reverse it. So that's the only problem with that. So what I've done is I've gotten used to just pointing the wrong direction. Like I'll say it's over there on the right, and I just point the opposite. Which is a bit tricky sometimes, but I've just gotten used to it. And so then a couple of times when I've done the like multiple Squirtle puzzles,
right,
I did flip my video because when I'm looking to the left or looking to the right on the screen, I wanted me to be looking the right direction at the right puzzle. And so then I'm so used to pointing left and saying right, now I had to do it the opposite, and it was it was hard to do it the original way. I don't know, it's weird, yeah.
And then in real life, when you have to point the right way, and it all gets messed up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but I also just don't. I don't know. I don't like looking at myself flip the other way. It feels so alien to me. Even though isn't that how other people see you? Or
right, and that's the thing is if you look at you can find online pictures of like Abraham Lincoln and various famous people, and they flipped it and they're like, this is what this person looked like, thought that they looked like, right? And it's weird how that's a difference. Yep.
It's weird. I don't like to think about that. It gets into existentialism and all.
Yeah, well,
really
I mean,
like?
most of us do not have symmetrical faces, so that's why there's a difference. Yeah, so how hard is Penguin says it's like driving on the left for a while and then coming back home. I've never had to drive on the other side. I imagine that would be a little bit tricky. So my wife and I went to Italy a couple of like 5 years ago now, I guess. But for a couple weeks, I drove over there, but they were on the same side, so I've never had to drive on the other side of the road. So,
are they on the same side? Yeah, I guess they are. Yeah. Huh.
I think most of the world drives on the right side of the road.
Right.
From what I understand. But I haven't been to most of the world, so.
Yeah, anyways, sorry. I was just thinking about trying to adjust your mind. So I was going to ask, how did it feel to get featured on CTC? But I guess, how did it feel to get featured on CTC? I guess that's still a bad question.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool because, like I said, I made a couple puzzles and I didn't really have any place to put them. I mean, the whole, for me, the reason for creating puzzles is for people to solve them, right? I like creating puzzles, but I mainly like having people solve the puzzles that I created.
Right.
And so, I mean, some people like to create puzzles and never even send them to anybody. They just like creating them. I like to have people solve my puzzles. That's kind of my goal in setting them, I guess. Because I like having other people enjoy the thing that I designed. Like, oh, I created this cool thing. You're going to think it's cool. So I want you to experience that, cool thing kind of deal. So it was cool because that meant a bunch of people were going to solve it essentially. So, yeah. And it also kind of was, I guess, validation that this thing that I created that I thought, because, when you're first starting into something new like that, like you think it's really good, but is it? You know, the first short film I made is I don't know if it's still findable online. That's probably a good thing, you know. Like even my most recent one that I made, which I've made several now, and the most recent one was probably the best one I've made, but I'm still like, oh no, it could be better. And so you know, having them do the puzzle and saying, oh, this was really neat, kind of just helped confirm that I knew what I was doing, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason why I started this YouTube channel is I wanted to let people know that when you start making puzzles, you get that feeling that you're like, wow, like I'm a genius. Like this is so cool. Like
no one's ever done this before.
You feel so awesome to be making a puzzle, even if it's terrible. Like looking back on some of the puzzles that I thought were like, this is so awesome when I first started, like they're pretty terrible, right? So it's
Yep.
it's a pretty cool. It's one of those things that even if you're just starting, it still feels great and rewarding to make something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And definitely the validation helps too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that first puzzle I made, the baseball one, no, never mind. That wasn't the one. I was gonna say I think Ranks might have done that one on his stream one time, but he didn't. He did my billiards one,
right?
Another sports related puzzle. That's right. Never mind. I've got too many puzzles. It's hard to remember all of them at this point.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Definitely.
Especially with all the puzzle hunts and other various things I've done. And I've done so the last 2 years I did an advent calendar of puzzles. Which is not happening this year, by the way, for anybody. Sorry to say. But I did a puzzle every day leading up to, you know, for December leading up to Christmas. And I did actually 2 puzzles every day because I did a normal version and like a junior version. So it's just a lot of puzzles. So I don't even remember all of them that I've made at this point.
So speaking of like the advent calendar and other projects that you've done, like the quarantine treasure hunt and the junior puzzle hunt and all that.
Oh yeah. See, I'd forgotten about those as well. Yeah.
How much time did you spend working on these things compared to like your other projects or other things in life?
It depends. The advent calendar was quite a bit of time, which is part of the reason why it's not happening this year. Because it's just a lot of puzzles and coming up with. They were all Christmas related somehow, or snow related at the very least. And sorry for all the Southern Hemisphere people that don't associate snow with Christmas, but that's where I am. Snow is Christmas, you know. But yeah, it's tough to come up with enough themes to have 25 unique puzzles, and then to make a junior version that's sort of similar to the regular version, and yeah. It definitely a lot of time for those. Some more than others. You know, some of them you can kind of throw together pretty quick. Some take multiple days. Some of the puzzle hunts, it depends too. Like the junior puzzle hunt wasn't too bad. I mean, I think in my experience at least, puzzles that are intended to be easier are generally easier to set as well.
Right.
Because at least the way I set puzzles, I essentially am solving the puzzle while I'm setting it, right? I set it the way you would solve it. And so if it's hard to solve, it makes it hard to set because you got to find all that logic and build it in there. And it tends to be a little more of a house of cards, I think, on some of the more complicated ones where like this one thing, if I change this, the whole thing breaks. And then, yeah. So,
well, I think a lot
and
of
like
people...
that maze, the one you're looking at right there, the maze for the junior one. Like, I mean, a maze is pretty simple, right? You can go online and create mazes. And then I had to stick the letters in, and I kind of had to verify that the maze worked the way I wanted it to, and maybe alter some walls here and there. But things like that
aren't maze generation. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
There's some very, very cool things with maze generation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hexagonal mazes are really interesting too.
Yeah.
Just it adds another dimension to it, yeah. Instead of just square ones.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I did. Didn't I do it? I think I did a hexagonal maze for the puzzle hunt. I did at like 50,000 subscribers, I think.
Hmm.
See, and I can't even remember all my stuff now, but I think I did. Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyways. Yeah. One of the puzzle hunts I did a hexagonal maze. I know that.
Yeah. At some point. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was the 50,000. Yep. Yep. Yeah, there it is. I see it. Okay. I got it here. Yep. Well, you guys can't see it, but I can see it.
Well, we have confirmation that it was the.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that some people find setting easier puzzles to be harder in a way, or like almost impossible, because like the ideas just don't like fit into the box. Their ideas don't fit into the box of easy, or like they're just not approachable in that way. How would you say that you could make something that's approachable if you had that problem?
So if you want to make a puzzle that's easier, and your puzzles tend to be hard.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess keep it simple, right? Like a lot of times what makes a puzzle hard is this thing here tells you something that then means something about this, which means something about that, and you're kind of getting this complicated web, which is really fun and can be neat, but that makes it really hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got to find that thing. So keep it simple, I guess, right? So that's I don't know. That's how when I've made like the junior puzzles, try to make sure that everything is almost too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. I've done some all those junior puzzles that when I did Sudokus anyways, they were 6x6 Sudokus. So real simple. The math is easy on like a killer. You know, there's not my well, he's 10 now, but my 8-year-old at the time when I was making those the first time, he's pretty good at math for an 8-year-old. But you know, he could figure out with a little bit of coaching, oh, well, the most you can have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and he could kind of do the math and figure out that was 21, and you know. Just keep it simple, basically. Overcluing. Somebody just posted in the chat. Overcluing. That's true too. So, typically, if you're making like a more difficult puzzle, you want to have like, well, you can't figure this out unless you do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Well, in an easier puzzle, make it so you can figure it out if you do X, Y, or Z. You know, any of them will give it to you. I made an easy killer, as I called it. That was intended for people that were new to killer puzzles, and there were very obvious 45 rule things, you know, like there are cages in the first column where it's lined up. There's like 3 cages, and then there's 1 cell at the bottom, and it's very easy to just, you know, add those up and subtract and stuff like that. Or, you know, of course, like puzzle, like the one that I just solved on my channel of yours had a 3-cell 7 cage. It's 1, 2, and 4. You know, give them some of those easy things to get started too, because I think especially generally an easy puzzle is intended for someone who's less experienced, right?
Definitely. And
so giving them some of those easy wins to get them started, I think is good too, because if you can't find the start, you're just gonna give up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, some people don't like having multiple paths for a puzzle, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Depending on your goals for the puzzle. If you make it too hard, no one will solve it. And like I said, I like having people solve my puzzles. I like making hard puzzles too, but I have done some of those. But they were generally done sort of for hard on purpose. Like the pirate puzzle hunt that I made, that is gonna be in the upcoming CTC book too, by the way. It was intended to be hard because I made it specifically as a puzzle hunt for CTC to use. Mm-hmm. And their audience is people who solve lots of puzzles and enjoy hard puzzle. You know, like I specifically designed it to be hard on purpose because knowing that the audience would want that. So
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that's in the top 5 hardest puzzle hunts that CTC.
Probably not. Probably not. At the time, it was pretty. It meant not the hardest one, but it was definitely one of the harder ones compared to what they were typically doing. So I mean, they had to do their solve video was multiple videos, which I think was kind of an unusual thing at the time.
Right.
That was a couple years ago now, so
Yeah.
yeah. And it was only four puzzles. I think it was 4 puzzles plus the final kind of find your way around the map kind of thing. But
right.
yeah.
While we're on the topic, Woofers FG had asked, how did you come up with the idea for the quarantine treasure hunt? How long did it take to create all of those puzzles? And give context for what that is for people who don't know as well.
Yeah, and that was something that I did again before the Discord server and before there was, I think even before CTC was really doing their puzzle hunts. So I didn't create that with the intention of them using it or anything like that. And it's not Sudokus and stuff, you know. That was more just for me to post online. I posted it on Facebook. I was like, oh, I'll share this on Facebook and people I know will do it. And, you know, so I had done some similar kinds of things actually in the past years ago. I had for a long time, I had a website called greattreasurehunt.net because .com was taken. And I tried to do a thing where it was sort of this idea, a little bit different, but where you'd kind of have a puzzle that would lead you to a location in the world, and you had to kind of figure out the location, and then the idea was like a treasure hunt. You were finding going from place to place, and people were supposed to sign up as teams and try and compete to solve it, and there'd be a thing every day, and it's hard to market that kind of stuff. Especially at the time, it was hard because this was like maybe pre-Facebook even.
Right.
It was a long time ago. So I had some people that did it, some people I didn't know that did it, and some friends and family and stuff, and it was fun. But yeah, basically there was just a puzzle each day that it led you to a location. Was the way it worked. So it was kind of going off of that, where I liked the idea of treasure hunts and Indiana Jones, and you're following clues. National Treasure, the movie National Treasure, right? Where you're following these clues and going from location to location to get the treasure. And so that was essentially the idea behind it. And from there, I just tried to come up with, I decided I wanted each day to be, 3 puzzles, because I used the what 3 words thing. And so 3 puzzles that would give you, together would give you a thing. And so then I just tried to do a variety of different types of puzzles, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some of them took a long time to create. Some of them did not take long at all. So yeah, like on the screen there, the remove a baker's dozen of movies. I mean, it's a simple word search. I think I probably used some website that makes word searches, and then did some little modifications to it once I mostly had it made. And I started with a big list of movies and then figured out a word search that would work with movies.
Right.
So that one didn't take too long. Some of them took longer, Yeah.
Did you have sort of locations?
What took the longest time actually was going through the What 3 Words website and finding. So I had to. Okay, I don't want to spoil anything if people are going to do it that haven't done it already. But essentially, What 3 Words is a website where you find a location in the world using 3 words, which is why there's 3 puzzles in each one. You get the 3 words, it leads you to a spot, and you look at the satellite image, and you'll see something on the ground. So I had to find the things on the ground, right? That worked, and then, but you find the thing, and then it gives you 3 words. But how do you make a puzzle for those 3 specific words?
Right.
So it was a little tricky. Like, I don't know, figuring out how to find a thing that would it working backwards is hard, essentially, with this type of puzzle. So yeah, it made it tricky for sure.
I mean, like, giving an example, like tree dot bird dot, I don't know, more come to a random location, but finding invalid. Okay.
Yeah, you have to use a valid, but you can do you basically put in 3 words and it gives you a location.
Right.
But yeah, trying to find, because it seems easy, like, oh, we're gonna find a satellite image that has a P, because I need to have a P in the answer.
Right.
How do you find that? Like, so there's a lot of airports, because the runways have letters and numbers on them.
Right.
So I did a lot of airports. I did a lot of like sports arenas because they typically have like the sponsor's name on the top, things like that. So that was kind of how I found letters and numbers, and because if you go to random Street View, there's no letters and numbers most of the time that you can see from the air. Sometimes on roads you get some stuff, but not much. So makes it tricky, but
I thought that was something.
Yep.
That actually looks pretty cool. That's like a maze on the ground.
Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Anyways, we're getting distracted again.
Crop circles.
Yeah.
There's crop circles in the corn.
The corn. Another distracting question, or another sort of tangent question that we can get onto is 11 Tickles had asked, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Favorite dinosaur? Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, everybody likes the Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? I think I really like raptors. I think raptors are cool, partly because I'm a big fan of Michael Crichton. He's probably my favorite author, and he wrote Jurassic Park and The Lost World, the books. I believe he was at least partly writing the movies. I don't know for sure. I think there was some other people writing as well, but he wrote the books, and raptors, are pretty prominent in the books, so they're fun. I've always liked Stegosaurus. I like the plates; those are kind of cool, just because it's different. It's not, spikes. Everything's got lots of things with spikes. We still have rhinoceroses that have spikes. So Triceratops is old news, but we don't really have a lot of things with like the sticking off the top like that. I don't know. There's lots of animals with scales and such, but I just thought it was interesting.
Not like
one of my sons. I guess all of them, but one of my sons specifically really liked the show Dinosaur Train when he was little, so we watched a lot of that. So learned a lot about dinosaurs there.
Right.
But pteranodons are fun because of the silent P, right? Pterosaurs, those are fun because the silent P is unusual. PT.
Yeah. Is there any word other than dinosaurs that have the silent P sort of thing?
Psychiatry, psychology.
Yeah.
But it's PS. I don't know if there's anything that has a PT at the beginning. I don't know. Interestingly, I actually haven't looked into this. This might be something for my Here's Something Interesting channel as well.
Yeah.
But I believe there is. I believe there is a word that has every letter in the alphabet silent at some point. Like there's a word that has a silent A. There's a word with a silent B. There's a word with a silent.
Okay. I thought you meant at once.
No, not all at once.
I was whoa, that's a crazy word.
Well, some of them are obvious, right? Like silent H and silent K. We've got knife and things.
Yeah.
And the P but like silent B. I'm not sure. Plum. There you go. So there's one. Plum has the B at the end. Mnemonic is a fun one. It has a silent M at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's MN at the beginning. So.
Yeah. Interesting. That is something interesting. Silent Q.
There's a fun joke too related to dinosaurs, So why can't you hear a pterodactyl in the bathroom?
Oh no. I can already see where this is going.
Because the P is silent.
Okay. So bad.
I told you I'm a dad. I have to have dad jokes at hand, it's a requirement.
Okay, let's get rid of some of the distracting questions. It's Stark Jr. had asked, are you really related to Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I can neither confirm nor deny. No. I'm not related to a fictional character. No.
Okay. I figured, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Some people might not know, I guess, but I do sometimes online go by Stroby-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. Which was my nickname from cross country in high school, actually. My cross country coach gave me that nickname. He gave nicknames to everybody on the team. We'd get t-shirts made every year, and when you got your shirt, it would have your nickname on the back that the coach had come up with. So there were some people that called me Stroby because Strosahl was a little tricky for them and they didn't know how to say it, and it just kind of became a thing that they called me Stroby. And then it turned into Stroby-Wan Kenobi, so yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought it was just like you were a Star Trek or a Star Wars fan.
Star Wars fan. Oh man, now you've angered all of the Star Trek and Star Wars fans both.
That was a slip.
I would say I like Star Wars. I'm not like a Star Wars, like I haven't even watched all of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show yet on Disney Plus.
Right.
And yeah, so I do like Star Wars, but
Your own
I'm
relative.
a fan of movies and stuff in general. So
Yep. Directionary had asked where is Banjo right now, and can we see Banjo?
Banjo is right there.
Oh, nice.
And he just heard his name.
Banjo.
That's his usual spot, is somewhere here or right back here on that rug down there on the floor. He likes to lay there and
the rug
sleep all day while I'm working at the desk.
The rug is similarly colored, so it's hard to tell if he's there or if it's just the
Yeah,
rug.
that's true. Yeah, it is. Here, I can give us a little.
Oh, it is a colorful rug, actually. I just saw a bit of the white part. Yeah.
But yeah, you can't see most of it from.
Yeah.
Here, while we've got this, there's my windows I was talking about. See, I've got windows on each side. So, anyways.
Nice.
There we go. Now that I've made everybody sick, we'll put the camera back down. Sorry about that. I'm easily distracted.
Here's an interesting question from Jovial.
Okay.
What's your favorite thing about setting puzzles?
Ooh, my favorite thing. Interesting. I like favorite thing. I like finding logic. It's kind of a setting and solving. Like I said, setting is a lot like solving. I like finding that aha moment. Like, this leads to that. It goes to there. And so one of the things that I like is creating that moment for other people to experience. Right, trying to create a thing where they will have that aha revelation moment kind of thing, because I think that's really fun. I enjoy experiencing those myself, so I want to create an opportunity for other people to have those. That's probably my favorite thing, and just a challenge sometimes. Some of my puzzles have been I had an idea like, I wonder if it would be possible to do this, and I kind of challenged myself to try to do it, essentially. That's how the Bizarro killer came about. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. I tried to get CTC to do it. They didn't want it. It's an 8x8 killer Sudoku, but the rules are essentially I kept hearing every puzzle was normal Sudoku rules apply, normal Sudoku rules apply, right? And I said, yeah, but what if normal Sudoku rules didn't apply? What would that look like? And so in this puzzle, every row, column, and box has a repeated digit and is missing a digit. So it could have 2 1s and no 8 or whatever, right? Every row, column, and box. And every digit is missing and repeated in 1 row, 1 column, and 1 box.
Right.
So you can't have 2 1s in the first row and 2 1s in the third row. It's 1. And then every killer cage has to have a repeated digit, because again, normally you can't repeat digits in a killer cage. So every killer cage has to have a repeated digit. And I have overlapping killer cages. I try to just break all the rules at once. And that one I made a pencil and paper. I actually took I printed off a blank Sudoku grid, and I set that with pencil and paper while I was watching TV with my wife. Just working on that. Yeah.
Cool.
So that one was a lot of fun, but it was a challenge. I was just like, what if all the rules were wrong? What would, and not quite like the Rogan puzzles or whatever, right? But and this was before that, so
I think there's been several puzzles since that have sort of played off the same idea with like, let's try to make the Sudoku rules wrong. This is probably the earliest one that I've heard of, at least.
I'm sure other people had done that before, something similar, but yeah. But I thought it was interesting to say, I sort of got rid of a rule but made it a specific way, right? Like it has
Right.
to be repeated once and missing once, and that gave you some logic to work in there. Because sometimes if you just get rid of rules completely, then it gets a little, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's harder to have. You have to have some sort of structure to work around.
Yeah.
But my thinking was, your normal kind of, you're used to killer cages. Oh, it adds up this way, and it would kind of make you have to think differently because you can have repeated digits. So now you can have a killer cage. It can be a 3 cell that sums to 4 because you can do 1 1 2.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's in the same row, it could be 1 1 2. So it's so weird. Some of the things you think you're used to, and then and actually my very first puzzle, the baseball one, again, partly because of the theme of baseball, but partly just to do a play on normal sandwich Sudoku. It was a sandwich Sudoku, but it was 3 and 9. The digits sandwich between 3 and 9 instead of 1 and 9. So again, all of your usual sums you're used to are wrong because now you can put a 1 in the sandwich.
Right. Yeah, that's always fun to think about.
So you could have, again, a 2-cell sandwich that it sums to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of kind of messing with the rules in order to make you kind of come up with new logic, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
How often do you go about setting puzzles these days?
It kind of comes and goes in spurts. I'll not set a puzzle for a while, and then I'll do a couple of them. And then, it just kind of depends how busy I am. Obviously, like we said, I'm pretty busy lately. So the YouTube thing kind of just went nuts. February, I was just hitting 800 subscribers and thinking, oh, I'm almost to the 1,000, right? And then like 3 weeks later, I was, 25,000.
Right.
And climbing, and it was just, so it's kind of been a whole thing. I've had to learn how to, it becomes a whole thing, at some point. I've had sponsors for videos. I've got, lots of things like that. So it's just figuring out what I'm doing with YouTube has been a whole thing. So that's part of the reason why I said I'm the youth director at our church right now, but we're working on finding somebody else because I kind of want to not have quite as much responsibility there. So yeah. So I don't set as many puzzles anymore, but I do sometimes. And sometimes I'll just have, some time, like I was doing, there was at our church, there was some event and I wasn't really part of it, but I was just running the soundboard and stuff for it. So I was just sort of there, but not really participating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a simple thing where it's just some people with microphones, nothing major that I need to do on the soundboard, no band or any of that kind of stuff. And so I was just sitting there with nothing to do. So I pulled up the computer, pulled up F puzzles and started playing around with some ideas, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about the YouTube thing. Like, why did you originally decide to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah. So I had done a puzzle hunt for CTC, the
tracking the triptych, I think.
Yes, 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 exactly. The triptych, yes. Tracking the triptych, yes. It had the 3
easy name, yeah.
3 things. Yeah. And really that whole idea came from the word triptych being like cryptic, and that was kind of where the whole thing built off of that. So I'd done that, and then they were gonna, like they usually do, they do a video solve after the fact. And I had offered to do the video myself if they wanted me to, and I think they were kind of busy at the time, and they said, sure, go for it. And so I recorded my own video solves of that, and in the comments people said, oh, this was well done, you should fill in sometime if they need a break, that kind of thing. Hey Mark, if you ever go on vacation, have Scott fill. There was just a few, though. It wasn't like an overwhelming huge thing, but a few of those kind of comments that kind of just triggered in me, oh, maybe I should try and solve some puzzles. I could probably, again, I tend to see a thing that I enjoy and want to do it myself, right? So I just sort of started solving Sudokus and posting them on, actually, that's partly true. Before that, I actually had done some solves of physical puzzles.
Right.
I'd done several of those, and it wasn't gaining too much traction. People seemed to enjoy it, but you know how, YouTube is, you could make the best thing in the world, but if you're new on the channel or if you're new on the platform and people don't know about you, they're not going to find it, right?
Right.
And so I'd done some of those, and part of the problem was you have to buy the puzzles, right? And so I'd kind of stopped doing that. And then this idea was, oh, maybe I should do some Sudokus because it's essentially free. It costs you time, right? But solving, and you don't have to buy the puzzles, and so I just started doing that. That was kind of the idea. I'm solving these puzzles anyways. Why don't I record it and post it online? So
yeah.
That's how I started on YouTube.
How did it develop into this?
Yeah, so it was sort of building slowly, right? And we'd created the other Discord server, Ranks and I andZetamath and Bremster, the four of us kind of joined together. Ranks had the server already for his Sudoku software that he was working on.
Yeah.
And we kind of all joined in and made it the Sudoku solvers who aren't CTC kind of server, essentially.
Right.
And shorts on YouTube were kind of a new thing, and people were saying, "Oh, you need to make short videos," and I was like, "I can't do a short Sudoku video," like that. I have done one of those, which was really to do a Sudoku in under a minute is almost impossible. I did do one. It was a 6x6 Sudoku, but at any rate, I was like, I can't really do shorts, and I could do some of the physical puzzles maybe as shorts, but that's hard too. And then Wordle became a thing, and it was January. It was pretty new. It was just starting to be popular, and I started playing Wordle, and I enjoyed Wordle, and it occurred to me, hey, these are pretty quick. If I edit it down a little bit, I bet I could do a 1-minute video of my Wordle solve, and that's a way to do some shorts. Do something a little different, because I didn't want to. I'd been doing lots of Sudokus, but I didn't want to just be CTC. Right. I wanted to be different than them. I didn't want to be a copycat of them, and I kind of was. And so I'd been doing gap puzzles as well. So that was one way that I was trying to kind of just be different than them. But this was another opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going to be completely different than them. I'm going to do Wordle solves, and I started doing Wordle shorts, and about a month later it just exploded. I don't know, it caught on and went crazy. And I was, I think so Ranks was doing Wordle by that point as well, but there weren't too many people doing Wordle solves. And then after I took off, other people started doing Wordle shorts, Wordle in a minute shorts. Unnamed people.
Well, lots of people have been doing.
Yeah, lots of people.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So, I don't know. There you go. That's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I was a sub from before you blew up, so I watched the whole thing unfold. And
yeah, you watched it happen. The weird thing was, so again, talking about pre-recording. I was actually at a conference in Phoenix. I go to a conference every year in Phoenix. It's a church conference thing, with the church staff. And I had pre-recorded like a week's worth of Wordle videos and a couple Sudokus and things, and had them all scheduled to post. And I was down there in Phoenix, and kind of keeping an eye on things and checking comments. And that was when it went crazy. It was like, oh, I posted the video, and then the next day I looked and I was like, whoa, that video got 20,000 views. Like the one from a couple days ago and that was insane numbers of views, right? Like, this is crazy. Like I got 50 subs, like, and then it just built. And by the time I was on my way back home on the plane, it was like, I had passed 1,000, and it was just, and for a little while there, it was crazy. The number of new subscribers every day was just insane. And I couldn't keep up with the comments, and it kind of raced up, and then Wordle has waned in popularity, and so it kind of leveled off, and it's been about the same since then, but it kind of went up and down a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
So what made, it seems pretty obvious to answer this with the obvious answer, but like what made you decide, okay, no more Sudoku solve videos. We're just doing Wordle now.
I mean, essentially, when I did do Sudoku videos, they didn't get very many views.
Right.
And I think a lot of my audience, so there was good and bad things about growing the audience from shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Because a part of it was the timing, I think, because I don't know if you know, but YouTube, for a while, there was a problem with the way shorts and long form videos were connected, and then they severed the connection. So they were completely separate.
Yes.
So there was no, like, somebody could watch 1,000 of your short videos and it would never recommend them one of your longer videos, even though they would clearly be interested in them, probably. And they've sort of fixed that, maybe, I think, since then. But
it's still bad.
A lot of my audience grew because they watched my shorts,
right?
But they weren't watching my longer videos, or maybe they weren't even interested in my longer videos, because there is a difference. Even if it's word puzzles, you know, it's not just real quick, exciting, cut it, you know, because I cut out all the downtime.
Right.
It's a different style of video. So part of that is I grew the audience that was different than what I had before. And I posted Sudoku solve at one point, and all the comments were like, "What is this? I have no idea what's going on. This makes no sense." You know, it's like, oh, okay. I guess, and not that I have to do the videos that are going to get the most views necessarily. I have no problem posting a solve and having it get fewer views. It's not that big a deal, because, again, like I said, it's not like it really costs me anything to make a video, just some time and such.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, what's the point in posting the video if people don't want to see it, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of posting, is for people to enjoy it and see it. So, yeah. So, but it's interesting. There's been kind of a little bit of a resurgence, I think, in people that are enjoying the Sudoku and the gaps. Since I hadn't done it for a while. So I don't know. We'll see how the one today does. I just did a Sudoku video today by some weird constructor. I don't know.
Yeah. Probably not. Don't do him again. Or...
yeah. So that was part of it, was just the audience wanted different things. So I was just kind of doing what they wanted, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, why
not? Yep.
So before you got into the whole Wordle thing, I know you were really interested in, of course, Sudoku and pencil puzzles. Were you really interested in crossword puzzles or any kind of word type thing before then, or?
I've enjoyed crossword puzzles. I enjoy crossword puzzles. I'm not very good at crossword puzzles, I feel like. And some of that is just like anything. Sudoku is the same way. I think you have to do it enough and often enough to kind of learn those tricks, right? Like, people that do crossword puzzles all the time, they could probably give you a list of a dozen words that no one knows except for crossword solvers, and they come up all the time in crosswords. And so there's a little bit of that. You have to learn those things. Right. And I don't think I've done them often enough at least, to learn those things. Mm-hmm. I actually have made some crossword puzzles, though. None of that have been accepted by the New York Times yet, but I have submitted some to them. So
cool.
Kind of fun. So New York Times style crosswords, I've made a bunch of those. Right. I've done some cryptic crosswords as well. I'm not great at solving cryptic crosswords. I like making them, but yeah. Part of the problem with cryptic crosswords is there's so much. It tends to be very British, and there's a lot of like British slang words that I just don't know, and so. Yep. So. Yeah, I do enjoy crosswords. I'm just not great at them.
Right. Same, basically.
Yeah. It's like Scrabble. I like playing Scrabble, but I'm really not very good at Scrabble. You'd think I would be good at, I mean, people always assume I would be good at Scrabble, but it's I don't know. It's different.
My family is a very Scrabble family. My mom and my grandmother and my sister are all very, very good at Scrabble, and they're always so mean to me when I take more than a minute on my turn to play.
Yeah, you better not wait. Yeah. Man, making them sit around, they've got better things to do, like play their own words.
And then they play like as on another word and get like 80 points, and it's
right, yeah,
killing me.
For sure. Yep. And again, Scrabble's one of those things where if you know those secret words that you know, So, yep, yeah. We didn't play a lot of Scrabble. It was more card games and a lot of card games when I was younger. So, but I enjoy like part of the reason I like puzzles, like Sudoku. I like Sudokus, but there's not anything special about Sudoku that makes me like them more than other. I like puzzles and the logic that comes with them, which is there's a lot of things you can do with a Sudoku. So, but word puzzles, all those kind of things, yeah.
They're more complex than like an on versus off type pencil puzzle, and then you can do more things with like 9 options rather than 2. It's basically what it just comes down to.
Yep, all those different variants just give you a lot of interesting combinations with things. Yep, for sure.
And Inferio had asked in the chat, basically, have you considered like expanding to TikTok or Instagram or something like that? Because
I actually have a TikTok channel.
Okay.
For a while, I was posting my Wordle solves on TikTok. Because I was already shooting them in the the vertical format. They were short. I mean, they were generally less than 3 minutes. If it's a YouTube short, it has to be less than 1 minute. Anymore, my Wordles are not shorts. They were originally, and then they became not shorts for various reasons. But I was posting on TikTok. Part of the reason I stopped is the music that I use in the background is from a couple of royalty-free libraries that you can subscribe to, and it consistently was getting flagged on TikTok, even though I had the license for them. And there's a way you can dispute it, and you fill out this form. It's a huge hassle. And I was like, I'm not making any money on TikTok. It's not worth the time to dispute this or the time to remake the video, not refilm the video, but, like redo the video with new music and render it out and upload. I'm making 2 versions for somewhere that you're not making money and hopefully maybe will someday. I just quit doing it on TikTok, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And also from what I've gathered, as far as being able to make money on TikTok, it's pretty tough. You gotta grow quite a bit. It's kind of like making money from shorts. You really don't make money from shorts.
Well, no, because there's no ads on shorts, so you don't get that.
Right. They have the shorts fund, but as far as the dollars per view it's ridiculous, the difference between shorts and long form. It's not. Shorts are great for growing your channel and getting you more, because I mean just the fact that they're short means you get more views because people are watching more different videos, right? In the same amount of time. But you just don't make any money off shorts. They're changing that a little bit maybe, but we'll see. So I still do shorts. I do the clatter a lot of times. I've been doing Wordle Peaks as a short lately. Every once in a while, the Dordle is a short. So I've still been doing some shorts. I think they're good, but I just don't necessarily expect to make money off of those. So
yeah,
that's fine. But they don't take as much time to make, so it's
fine. Directionary had asked, what plans, if any, do you have after the Wordle wave dies down? Do you think you'll go back? That's a good
question.
Do
you have suggestions?
Sudokus? Well, I guess that's probably why you started your other channel, right?
Yeah, partly. That is true. That's partly why. So they say. So I actually went to VidCon this year, which is kind of it used to be like YouTube's big convention thing, right? I flew out to California. That's where I met Ranks out there. We did a video together solving a puzzle. But it was very much TickTock con.
Oh, okay, interesting.
This year. Yeah, very much so. In fact, the YouTube sponsored like meetups and things were mostly off-site, even. Not even on-site. No, YouTube was a sponsor, but they weren't the main sponsor anymore. It was interesting. But at any rate, I don't know how I got to that. But the point is, I learned out there, what was I even talking about? Oh yeah. Okay. So the typical life cycle of a creator on YouTube is about 2 years. You know, you grow, you get a bunch of, and then 2 years or so, and then you're kind of, people are bored with it. They want something new,
right?
And you kind of wane. That's kind of the way it goes. So you either pivot to something else, You know, you probably know a lot of channels that have done that. They started out one way and they pivot. Well, like I started out with Sudokus. Now I'm doing word stuff mainly. CTC started out doing cryptic crosswords mainly, and they pivoted to Sudoku. And I think that's pretty typical for a lot of channels. But you typically either pivot to something else, or it dies away and maybe you start a different channel, or you just go do something else. Right. Most people don't have, you know, obviously there are examples of ones that have been out there for 10 years and doing great, but typically a couple years. So, and I always kind of knew, you know, I grew so fast that it obviously wasn't going to keep growing, right? It was going to shoot up and level off, which it did. I was kind of hoping it would be over the 100,000 mark so I could get the plaque, but you know, whatever. But I always knew that if it shot up that fast, it could probably drop faster than typical as well. So I'm kind of glad that it's sort of leveled off instead. It kind of went down and back up, and so but I mean, clearly, you know, 5 years from now, people are still going to be playing Wordle. It's going to be a thing on the New York Times website, right? Yeah. But most people aren't. Kind of like the crossword on the New York Times. There are plenty of people who play the New York Times crossword every day, but most people don't. And it's going to be the same way with Wordle. There will be people playing Wordle. Most people won't be playing Wordle. Even fewer people will be watching people play Wordle. Yeah, it'll be old news. For sure. So, I definitely don't expect it to last too long. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep doing puzzles. I'm going to look into doing other types of, I mean, I'm always open to suggestions from people for fun puzzles. But that's part of the reason I started that other channel. Yeah. So I can kind of have that. And the other thing, the nice thing about the other channel too, is it's completely different, obviously different topics. But, one of the things I like about it is, I'm not doing it every day. So the puzzles is like, I post puzzles every day. I haven't taken a day off since I started doing Wordle, actually. But again, I can kind of pre-record those, and some of them take more time than others. But if I'm just doing Wordle and like the peaks and clatter, and I mean, they're pretty quick, right? Right. Not too much time for editing. So it's not too big a deal to kind of pre-record some, but this other channel is, you know, I post when I post. I talk about whatever I want to talk about. I don't want to narrow in on one subject too much, because I think that's part of the thing with a channel having a 2-year lifespan is you kind of get pigeonholed into, well, we're only doing this thing. Yeah. And now what do we do when that thing, you know, when we want to change, now that's our thing. Right. So, yeah. So when I was looking at changing, so my channel used to be called just Scott Strosahl, and then I changed it to Scott Strosahl's. And part of the deal when I was thinking about a change is I didn't want it to pigeonhole me too much. I didn't want to be, you know, somebody suggested, oh, you should be the Sudoku guy, right? Because at the time I was doing mainly Sudoku, and I was like, yeah, but then what happens when I don't do Sudoku anymore, you know? Right. Or the Wordle guy, right? Well, Wordle's not going to last forever, right? Like, it's not going to be popular forever. So trying to keep it, but just Strosahl's, just puzzles in general, I think works out well. So, but yeah, I think you got to be careful not to pigeonhole yourself too much. Or just know that it's going to be a temporary thing, which is fine too. Nothing wrong with a channel becoming popular, doing well, and dying away. Like that's perfectly fine.
I think in a way you sort of have to transfer the interest of the viewer from the thing that you're doing to the person that is doing the thing, and then you can keep their attention no matter what you're doing. Yeah. And that's part of the reason I had kind of debated when should I start the second channel too, and I decided, well, I better do it now while I still have my audience on my other channel to hopefully get that transition over and get some of those people, and don't wait until it's you know, on its way down. Yeah. So, because I had been actually thinking about this, here's something interesting thing for a while. I was originally thinking about it as a podcast. There's another guy that I know that I thought about doing a podcast with him, and the idea was it's kind of like you're sitting around at the dinner table or having a beer or whatever, and you're like, hey, did you hear about this thing? That they're doing this thing over here, and it's really cool. You know, that's how people talk with their friends, you know. Hey, did you hear about this thing?
And it would be like that. So the idea was it was a podcast, and we would each kind of have a thing that we thought was interesting that we would talk about with each other. So, but then since I have an audience on YouTube, and the other guy I was kind of thinking about doing it with, it was, I don't know, it just wasn't, we never really were able to kind of connect on how we were going to make it work. And it was kind of like, oh, I guess I'll make it a YouTube thing, but it could certainly become a podcast in the future too.
Well, you could always do a podcast on YouTube.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I always say to my fiance, like, oh, I was watching a podcast, and she's like, were you watching a podcast or were you listening to podcasts? I'm like, well, the podcast was on YouTube, so they have some visual component to it, Mrs. Snarky Pants. Like,
yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but not on YouTube usually. I have an app on my phone that I use, but Philip says he wants to see my next channel where I just give hot takes on things that annoy me. I could do that.
Scott Strosahl.
I definitely have. So for those of you who are familiar with a podcast that used to be a thing, rest in peace, hello internet. But they had a thing they called paper cuts. Paper, like just little things. They're not a big thing. Like I'm not mad about this, but it's just little annoying things. I have a few of those. Yeah.
Pet peeves.
Yeah. Like recently I was selling something on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it's one of these things. Everybody sends you a message, just says, is this still available? That's all they say. Is this still available? And that drives me crazy. I don't know why. It's not a problem. Like you just respond yes. But I feel like it's still listed.
Yeah.
Like if you, because they say, is this still available? And I say yes. I'm like, are you interested? Like, so I feel like they should be saying, hey, I'm interested this if it's still available or something like that. But just, is this still available? Like, yeah, why? Are you, I don't know. So
well, if you've ever bought something on Facebook
yeah.
Marketplace, that's one of the automated responses that you can click. Like when you...
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Is this still available? Oh, so it's Facebook's fault.
They're not trolling you. It's
Facebook's fault.
Yes.
But I get so many of those that people say, is this still available? And I say, yes. And I never hear anything else from them. And I'm like, were you just curious or what? Like, why were you asking, you know?
Yeah, that's funny. That is very... One of your more Wordle people had asked, well, the first part of the question we already answered, what made you start doing Wordle videos, and the second part was, what's your favorite Wordle variant game?
Oh man, it's hard. It's like asking which kid is my favorite. Actually, that question's easy. No, I'm joking. My wife has said something, I don't remember actually, but she said something effective before, like we definitely like some of our kids more than others. It just changes which on day to day which one is which.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. My favorite, I enjoy a lot of them. I do enjoy Squirtle on the grid. Partly because I enjoy the logic of, so you don't have to get the actual word. You just have to get each of the letters at some point. And so I like the idea of being able to strategically guess the first part of this word with the end of that word. And that's what's kind of fun about the double and triple Squirtles that I've done, is it just increases that. So that's fun. Just another type of logic. I also enjoy the ones where there's ambiguous information, like Fibble and Word 500 and those kind of things. Those are fun. I enjoy in Sudoku. Those can be fun too. I think it was a Zeta math puzzle, right? Where it was like there was 3 copies of every clue. 2 truths and a lie. Was that Zeta math? I think it was Zeta math, right?
Zeta math.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. So those kind of things where you have to think outside the box and really figure out the logic of it, I guess. Yeah, because sometimes, especially just on normal Wordle, I enjoy normal Wordle, but it's a different kind of thing where I feel like you can kind of just almost do it without thinking sometimes, not always. But to a certain extent, like, I mean, there are people that do, like a 4-word start with 20 different letters, and you just kind of do an anagram, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that's how you like to solve it. But you're not having to use too much new logic, right?
Yeah.
So it's like people that do the Sudoku in the newspaper. That's great, but you're pretty much just kind of mindlessly doing it, really. You're not thinking too much about the logic of it. So that's why I like the ones with ambiguous stuff sometimes. So I've done a couple of puzzles. I've set a couple of puzzles with ambiguous clues. I did one that was it had lines, and it could be like a whisper or a thermometer or I don't even remember now. But I've done a few of those like that where you didn't know for sure what was what.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that don't Wordle kind of shows you how mindless you could do Wordle, because it's hard not to solve the don't Wordle.
I know, it's so weird. You wouldn't think it would be hard to fail, right?
Yes.
That is, I have a love-hate relationship with don't Wordle.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. Oh, yesterday was the worst. I don't know if you haven't seen my. Well, I guess it was yesterday, so it's not. I'm not going to spoil anything because the people have already done the puzzle. I thought I had the perfect final guess because it was M-A and it had to have an E at the end. Yeah. And I did Massé. I'm like, there's no way this is going to be the answer, and it was the answer. Anyway.
Well, it had to be.
Yeah. So.
Anyways,
it's weird how hard it is to fail. I don't know.
It is so weird.
I feel like I'm tempted to try and fail actual Wordle just to but then it would probably work.
Well, it feels
I would fail actual Wordle.
Like when you fail if you've ever, I think you failed actual Wordle like once or twice. And
one time.
Thinking about that in the context of don't Wordle makes me upset that you were like, I was able to fail the actual puzzle trying to get it correct, but then I can't even purposefully fail this other puzzle. Like,
yeah,
weird.
Yep. For sure. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's weird. Part of the there is a little bit of, it's not quite the same thing solving a Wordle and failing a Wordle on purpose, because you're when you're trying to solve it, you're searching for something, right? And when you're trying to fail it, you're trying to avoid the thing, and that's a little bit different logic wise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Azure had asked you to rate your favorite Wordle variant out of 10 on several terms in colorblindness, friendliness, enjoyment, accessibility, originality, and style. So I guess that would be Squirtle.
Sure, we can go with Squirtle. I don't know if I would say for sure it's my favorite, but I definitely enjoy it. I mean, I haven't, since they put out the weekly Squirtle, I haven't missed a single one.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was even a bonus one that the creator sent to me before releasing Weekly Squirtle that had made special for me to do one before it was released. And I did that one too. So I guess that means I enjoy it because I haven't skipped one. But colorblind friendliness, it actually is pretty good. It's pretty good. Most of the puzzles are fine. I've had a lot of trouble with Periodal. For those of you who might know that if you've been watching. There's a couple others that actually I've had some creators of puzzles that kind of talked to me before releasing the puzzle, and I've given them some feedback. So there was some issues there. Yeah, colorblind friendliness, it's fine. It does good. Enjoyment, I mean, obviously, enjoyment is my favorite, probably, kind of. One of my favorites, so obviously I enjoy it. Accessibility, it's not super accessible, I think.
No, I wouldn't say so.
There is definitely a learning curve. It's more accessible probably than Symbol. I do enjoy Symbol as well. Again, some of the ambiguous nature of the clues. That one is probably the least accessible in my opinion. Just it's even people that have played it a while, sometimes it's like, wait, how does this work again? Originality, I think Squirtle, it's not necessarily super original. You're taking Wordle and putting it on a grid. Lots of people have done a grid with Wordle. I think the main thing that's original about it is the idea of the you don't have to get the whole word. You can just get the greens, and so that's some sort of part of it. Yeah. So There you go. I'm not necessarily. I think it's fine, but I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the name Squirtle. Some of the puzzles I feel like are named wrong. I feel like if anything, Squirtle should be Crosswordle.
Yeah.
Because it's like a crossword. You're putting the words in a grid, and Crosswordle is not Crosswordle because you're not putting them in a grid. It's more like reverse Wordle or something. So, but
I
whatever.
don't
It doesn't
know
really
why
matter.
Crosswordle has always had the tagline like Sudoku plus cross. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. And
It's
yeah,
so
and I think Squirtle is like Wordle squared is what they call it. Which I can kind of see, but again, Crosswordle seems like I don't know. But anyways, the names don't matter. Some of the names have come up because of what was already out there and what was available, and they didn't want to name it the same as some other things. So whatever.
Yeah,
Fine.
you'll need to save all this for the Scott Strosahl, where you complain about things that annoy you.
Oh, where I complain things about yeah, I don't know that the names annoy me. I mostly just ignore the names, but I just when I first started playing them, I noticed like, why is it called that? You know. So, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting back to Sudoku, because we've been off that for a while. Talk about the most recent puzzle that you set. How did it go?
The most recent puzzle I set, I have to remember what it was, first of all. I know I posted it on the Discord server, so let me look. I can tell you what it was. Oh, I gotta look. I still had the search in there where I looked up your puzzles to find one to do today. So let me see what my most recent puzzle was. Oh yeah, well, okay, so the most recent one I posted actually was not the most recent one I set. So let's go. The most recent one I set was Killer Temperature Swings. Yeah, so I had that was kind of a neat, again, just as kind of an idea, a germ of an idea that led to a puzzle. I was thinking about actually sort of similar to your overlap in some ways, where I'm overlapping thermometers with killer cages.
Right.
And I was thinking about the idea of if we did a grid of like a killer cage, you know, it's 4 killer cages connected by 4 thermometers, and the ends of the thermometer overlaps the killer cage, and how the thermometer, you know, forces you to put high digits at the one end and low digits at the other. But then you're forcing digits to be higher or lower in the killer cages, but they're all connected in a loop, so they all kind of affect each other all the way in a continuous loop around. And that was kind of the basic idea of it. So, and then I came up with ways to add some more. I do like to, in general, try to make my grids symmetrical if I can, sort of, kind of, or at least have some sort of to look nice, right? Not to be completely random. Obviously, I've done puzzles that are like the Bizarro Killer. Just there was no making it symmetric. It was just make it work. That was tough making that work. So, but in general, I like to do that. So on this one, I did try to kind of make everything symmetrical. And killer cages are nice that way because you can have the cages be symmetrical, but with different numbers. And so, yeah, symmetrical without being symmetrical. Because I also generally do not like when the answer is symmetrical, right? When it's there's a word for it, and I should know what it is. What's that called? It's like a 3-letter abbreviation.
Garth symmetric placement.
Yes, GSP, right? GSP. Yeah,
GSP.
So in general, I'm not necessarily a fan of that on most puzzles because it just makes the solve easier. But sometimes that can be a good thing if you're trying to make it easier, right? So. I did have the New Year's Miracle puzzle that I made. That was definitely like a symmetrical pattern kind of thing. I think it was roped too because it's a miracle puzzle and they typically are. But that's gonna happen. That's okay. But anyways, yeah. So my most recent puzzle, Killer Temperature Swings. There you go. But the most recent one I posted actually was one that I originally made for Bremster to solve, Sudoku bot, and I was really excited with that one too. It's in some ways it's different, but in a similar thing where I used the idea of German whispers and lockout lines.
It's actually
I had the
partially
idea
on the
that
screen. It's up there in the top.
Oh yeah, okay, there you go.
It's partially on the screen. It's not completely there, but it's just a little bit there.
Oh, in the top left. Yeah, it's in the top left. So the idea was, the basic idea behind that one was German whispers, every other cell has to be different by 5. So you get
Right.
this high-low parity thing, right? And I thought, oh, it'd be really cool if you could kind of teleport, right? The whispers line goes here and stops, and then it continues over here, right? These whispers lines are connected to each other. But how would you make that? I mean, you could just say, oh, this teleports to there, but that's not as fun, right? I didn't want it to be a rule that you were giving. I wanted it to happen from the puzzle. And I realized lockout lines, the ends have to differ by at least 4. Okay, which isn't the same as 5. But if the ends of the lockout lines are the ends of the German whisper lines, they can't be 5s. So effectively, that lockout line jumps the German whispers parity from the one end to the other. So it makes all your German whispers lines be connected as one big line, even though they're jumping. That was the whole idea behind it. And then I came up with the little pattern and building killer cages to make it unique, basically.
So when you usually
to make it unique and to have some logic to solving it, obviously. So
when you usually going to set something, do you start with like one idea that you're like, I really want to put this into a puzzle?
Typically, yeah. I've got some idea of an interaction or a thing. I have done some before where I started with a cool pattern and worked from there. There was the one, it's on the screen there actually, right? Let's see, it's right here. Right there, I think. Should be right there.
Killer one or the thermometer one?
The music one. The music one. Down at the bottom there. So that was one I did with someone who did the song.
Right.
And they came up with the CTC Symphony thing and the song, and then I made so we had the idea of making it like a sheet music, and so I had to make thermometers that were horizontal, like the lines on a staff,
and
then the dots had to match the music that they were playing, and so that was an interesting kind of collaboration where we had to think about, okay, if we use this scale, right, because we didn't want to have sharps and flats because it doesn't, it wouldn't look right if you had sharps and flats on the outside of the grid. So we're in C. Here's the notes that would work together well. Let's try to figure out ways to do it. So, and we couldn't really we had to do the notes on the lines because we only had lines, and so it was really limiting. But and then just figuring out. So I started with a fun pattern on that one, and then came up with the rest of that, and figured out where to put because I could put the dots anywhere I wanted to. So the ends of the thermometers were movable. But yeah, that was how so sometimes I start with the pattern. Generally, I start with some idea for an interaction. There's the one I had the idea of the arrows. That one's actually below you. It's on the kind of the bottom right, where I did the even, odd, even, and the arrows. And I had kind of the idea of, well, if the circle is odd and it's a 2-cell arrow, then it has to be an even and an odd. And if it's an even, then it would have to be 2 odds or 2 evens, and playing with odd, even stuff there. So you notice there's a bunch of 2-cell arrows in that one because that was kind of my thinking. So yeah, usually it's some sort of idea of an interaction or a theme or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. But sometimes it's just a pretty pattern, and then I try to make it work.
I had a follow up, but I can't remember it now. So I'll just go with Ron Planer had asked, how much time can you spend on solving / setting Sudoku in comparison to the time before Wordle and its variants started consuming?
Yeah. So now how much time can I spend?
Yeah.
Not nearly as much as I used to, obviously. Yeah. I do solve some Sudoku. I solve Sudoku more than I set Sudoku still.
Right.
Because I have solved some Sudokus that people have posted in Discord and various places, and every once in a while I just go over to the puzzle testing feedback on the other Discord channel and solve some random puzzles, and just here and there. But yeah, not nearly as much, obviously. Yeah. And I haven't set as much. I've set a few recently, like that killer temperature swings, and I did another one recently too, but I don't even remember. Like, it's just I finished setting them and I post them out there and they leave my brain.
Right.
So, I did the one for Zeta Math's 5-list stream. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
That was cool.
No 5s. I did German Whispers for that one. Yep. So, anyways, yeah.
That's the thing I was going to follow up with. Is that the way you described you're setting Sudoku? Is that the same way that you set non-Sudoku, or is it's sort of a different way?
Yeah, I think it is pretty much. Generally, I mean, it kind of depends a little bit on what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of set it the way I solve it. Sometimes, and it depends. If you're doing like a puzzle hunt, you have to have the overall picture in mind, right? Because I mean, I guess it depends on your puzzle hunt. Some puzzle hunts are essentially just a string of puzzles that don't really have an overall thing. I typically like to make something where all together you get like a final thing or something. And so then you have to kind of have that overall view. Or we've done, I did the ARG.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually done a couple of them now. I did one on my channel that was a smaller one. And then I did the bigger one with Reverend on CTC. And that one, we had the storyline planned out. And then we filled in puzzles to fit the storyline. Because something like that, like the story was a big part of the thing. Like the puzzles were important, but to me, as an ARG, it was supposed to be this big thing where we're going on an adventure as a big group, and the storyline was supposed to be part of it. So we started with that, but yeah. But yeah, typically, crosswords is different, of course. When I've set crosswords, the hard thing with crosswords is the grid.
Right.
Obviously, creating clues can be hard too, and you want to be clever. You want to have clever clues, and you want the difficulty to be right. But you give me a finished grid of words, I can come up with clues.
Right.
Making a grid that works is really hard. Like a New York Times style crossword. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So you start with the words and then you go from there. Especially if you want to have a theme, which again, typically New York Times crosswords a lot of times have a theme. The ones that I've made have all had themes, so that makes it even harder to fit the words into the grid. So,
right.
Yeah. So obviously you wouldn't set a crossword the way you would solve a crossword.
Yeah, of course. Which is.
But in general, most puzzles, yeah.
Puzzles. So we have some rapid fire questions. So just answer one of the other, quick and simple.
Okay.
They're mostly about Sudoku or pencil puzzle type things. Local or global deductions.
It's supposed to be quick. I think local with a global connection.
Okay, interesting. Coloring or good living.
I mean, I'm colorblind, so
yeah.
I do enjoy coloring as an idea, but good living, yeah.
Geometry or arithmetic.
Ooh, probably arithmetic, but I do enjoy geometry.
Penpa or F puzzles.
I mean, for Sudoku, F puzzles.
Okay.
But I do enjoy the flexibility of Penpa to be able to do lots of crazy things, because I've done lots of crazy things. Like I couldn't do the Bizarro Killer in F puzzles, for example.
When you set pencil puzzles, do you use Penpa or do you use, say, like Puzzlink?
Both. It depends on the puzzle type. Some of them are really good in Puzzlink. But again, if you want to do anything unusual, I've done some castle wall, ice barn combination things, and you can't do that on Puzzlink. So, any kind of combination, it's Penpa. Yeah. But if it's a standard puzzle type that works well in Puzzlink.
Right. Sudoku or pencil puzzles?
Probably pencil puzzles. More variety.
And a special.
I like combining them, actually.
A special one for you: Wordle or non-Wordle puzzles.
I mean, if you're talking about specifically Wordle, probably non-Wordle. Again, there's just more that you can do with it.
Right.
So I do enjoy word puzzles, but if you're talking about just Wordle itself, it is pretty limited.
What if you include the Wordle variants, like the ones that spawn off of Wordle? Still other ones, or?
Yeah, probably. Again, there's more variety. I
Yeah.
feel like I like the different logic you can do with different things. So,
Yeah.
but I also enjoy bringing letters and words into some of those other kinds of puzzles. So,
Yeah.
like the CTC Symphony puzzle, where I had the letters as part of it. You know, it's kind of a code thing, but yeah,
Right.
that can be fun.
Cages or lines?
There's more flexibility with lines again, but I do enjoy killer. The first few puzzles early on, I made several killer puzzles, and I did enjoy those. So, I don't know, probably lines. There's more things you can do with lines, but I do enjoy killers with cages. So,
Okay. Dots or arrows?
probably arrows.
To disambiguate a
I don't
puzzle,
know
a
why.
given digit or a clue?
Ooh, if the clue is gonna involve a new rule that you haven't already used, given digit every time. If you can use a clue, like if it's a killer and
Yeah.
you can add an extra cage,
Yeah, of course.
then a clue is great.
Yeah.
I have no problem putting given digits in
Right.
when needed.
Outside or inside clues?
Oh, outside or inside clues. I do enjoy outside clues. Those are fun. Yeah, I kind of like outside. I like outside
Okay.
generally, but yeah, but they're again fairly limited sometimes.
I was trying to think of a corn joke, but that's all of them.
Yeah. Oh. Those weren't too bad.
No.
Most of them, I just wanted to say both.
Yeah, we've had a recent short with the Kagi show taking his sweet time with the rapid fire questions as well.
Yeah, it's tough because I do enjoy like most of those things, both versions. It just depends. If you look at the puzzles I've set, Sudoku puzzles, I've done almost every type of constraint at some point. You know,
Yeah.
outside, inside, lines, dots, irregular grids, arrows, cages. I mean, I've done everything because I think I just like the logic of the different things, not any specific type of thing. Yeah, so.
Right. And it's clear from that you love a variety, because you pick the most variety-based options.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Which brings me to
because it gives you more options to do. It's if it's really limited, then you can't do as interesting logic typically, or at least not something new and different. Yeah.
Which brings me to an interesting question that I've asked a few times, and it's quite a tricky one. If you had to set only one variant or puzzle type, and you couldn't set anything else, what would you choose to set?
It'd probably be, I mean, so I can't just say Sudoku and include all of the extra Sudoku stuff.
That would be classic Sudoku.
Right. No, not classic
Sudoku.
Definitely not classic Sudoku.
You could say like thermo Sudoku or like.
Yeah, probably killer.
Yeah, that's fair. Killer's good.
I've probably done more killer Sudokus than other types. I think that could be wrong, but I feel like that's probably the one I've done the most of for setting.
Nice.
It just seems to be easier to me for some reason to be able to set those. So
yeah, it does in a way. More natural, I think, for some reason.
I like Philip's answer. I would set Wordle. That's true. Wordle would be really easy to set. You just pick a 5-letter word.
How often do you go looking for puzzles to solve, and where do you look for them? I know you said the Discord server you sometimes look in.
Yeah. Anymore, I mean, a lot of times it's just stuff that people send to me. So I get sent more puzzles to solve than I can solve. So I have dozens of emails right now from people saying, "Hey, you should check out this type of puzzle," and I haven't got to it yet.
Wow.
So especially with these Wordle variants, they're just like there's a new one every day. I mean, on our Discord server, even there seems like there's a new one every day that somebody's setting. So I don't really have to go look for them anymore. But yeah, the CTC Discord. I used to look on Logic Masters Germany more. I haven't been on there forever.
And then the follow-up to that is, what makes you want to solve something versus not want to solve it. You can include Wordle as well in this answer.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of times, especially with a new type of puzzle, you don't really know what it's going to be like until you do it, right? Obviously. But sometimes I pull up a puzzle and I look at it and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I can't even really say why. It's just kind of like, I don't know. That doesn't seem very interesting. And then other times it's like, ooh, this is kind of a neat idea. And I'm not exactly sure why. Sometimes it's just like an instinct thing. Like, I don't know.
Or just the visuals.
And then sometimes you think it's going to be good and it turns out to just kind of be the same thing, But usually if it makes me want to solve it, it's because it's some interesting, unique thing like, oh, I haven't thought about that before. Oh, that would be interesting. Like periodal, for example. It's just Wordle, but you're using the abbreviations for the chemical elements to make your words. And it's just kind of like, oh, that's a neat idea. A different kind of restriction and logic on what you can do. And So I actually did, by the way, on that related note, I've done some trivia nights. I've run trivia nights for our church and some other groups around town and stuff in the past. And I did a whole category in one of my trivia nights where all the answers were made up of chemical element abbreviations, state names, and something else. They're all abbreviation things like that. Or maybe it was just chemicals and states. Yeah, it was chemicals because I called it chemical states was the name of the category. And I'd give you, bromine, oxygen, whatever, the list, and you had to know what the Arkansas, and you had to know the abbreviations and figure out what the word was. So it's kind of fun.
Interesting.
So if you're ever doing a trivia night and you need an idea, that's a fun one to do. And it's a good one that a lot of people, there's enough people that know the abbreviations that they can kind of figure it out. But you throw like Einsteinium in there, and they're like, "What's Einsteinium? Is that one?" It's ES, by the way. But and of course you got to use tungsten and some of those that have a W for tungsten, and so just to catch them out. But most people feel like it's doable, right?
Right.
So,
anyways, that brings us to the hour mark, and this was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks everyone for coming out and liking the stream and all that. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed what's going on here, and watch the other interviews. There's a lot of good ones in the past, so go check those out. Yeah,
subscribe to Meme Resistor and Meme Rister. Sorry, not Resistor. Meme Rister. And if you haven't seen me solve Meme Rister's puzzle, you should go check that out too over on my channel. I just did that earlier today, so it's a good puzzle. And you should solve his puzzle as well, not just watch me solve it. So you should solve it first.
Yeah, and please join on Zeta Math stream after this.
Zeta Math.
I'm supposed to plug that. I was supposed to do the whole redirection thing on YouTube.
Yeah, but it won't let you.
Yeah, it won't let me because I'm not above 1,000 subscribers. But you guys can change that if you subscribe right now. I'm just joking.
If we get enough people right now, we could jump it over to the 1,000.
I can't redirect viewers, Naverio. We tried to do it, but it won't let me because I need 1,000 subscribers. But here is the link for that.
You can put the link. I was gonna say, you should put the link in the chat though. There you
go. But before we go, I should announce the next person who we're going to be interviewing. In
drumroll
next week. Yeah, drumroll if you want. Sometimes I get the guests to do it, but sometimes I forget. Usually forget. The next
I could announce it even though I don't know who it is. I could just guess, and
that would be
probably
very bad.
No,
but I can. I'll put it in the chat actually too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Learn hypnosis, then you can redirect anyone. Nice. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
For those who don't know, I do play the drums as well, by the way. So. Ooh, okay. That's a good one. That'll be interesting. I've solved some good puzzles by this person. So now they want me to tell them, but I'm going to keep them in suspense for a minute. So Meme Rister has sent me in the chat who the next person is. And so it is, I'll give you a hint. It's numbers. There's numbers in the name. See if anybody guesses. Okay. So it is 2 to 10th. I've done some good puzzles by 2 to 10th. I don't remember specifically which ones, but I remember liking them.
2 to 10th is a fantastic setter, and I'm excited for next week when we get to hear their thoughts.
Yeah, I can't remember what I know. There was one that that was hard and that I really liked. I can't remember what it was now though. It's been a long time, but I remember doing one by them. So there you go.
Anyways, again, thank you, Scott, for joining us, and it was a great conversation.
Thanks for having me on.
And see you guys next week. Bye.